Palestine, the Israeli onslaught continues in Gaza. Over 70 Palestinians were killed after an artillery attack in Al-Maghazi refugee camp. In Panama, the Canadian mining company First Quantum warns that it will defend its investment in the country. And in Latin America, heads of states and government sent Christmas messages expressing their commitments and wishes for their peoples and the region. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. At least 70 Palestinians were killed after an terrorist attack by the Israeli occupation forces in Al-Maghazi refugee camp. The bodies were transferred to Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital. Similarly, several critically wounded from airstrikes were also received at this medical center, according to health officials. A spokesman for the Gaza Health Ministry reported that the Israel bombed the main roads to prevent the passage of ambulances and emergency personnel, and said that the death toll could rise due to the severity of the injuries. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Prisoners Society and the Committee for Detainees and Former Detainees Affairs said that the number of detainees arrested by the Israeli army has increased to 4,695. They also denounced that Palestinians are arrested in their homes and at military checkpoints in the West Bank, and detailed that the occupation forces are destroying the homes of the detainees and confiscating their properties. Palestinian authorities warned that the Tel Aviv army harasses former prisoners released during the humanitarian truce. Over 23 Palestinians were killed by the Israeli occupation forces east of Khan Younis, and more lifeless bodies are reported to be under the rubble after various airstrikes. The Tel Aviv regime continues to attack civilian objectives also in the western Khan Younis area, in the Rafah border crossing, and all of northern Gaza. After 80 days of the intensification of the Israeli siege on Palestinian territory, the people of the Gaza Strip resist in the face of the growing humanitarian crisis lived in the area. Entire families have been wiped out in the latest day of Israeli bombardment, in which Israeli warplanes have committed a massacre by attacking a refugee camp where thousands of civilians were seeking shelter. With more details directly from the ground, our correspondent in Gaza, Noor Harasin.
More than 500 people were reported injured. Talking about some of the highlights over the past hours, the Israeli warplanes targeted the Salah family home in Khan Younis city, killing 22 members of the same family, Salah family, including women and children, while there are still 10 people who are still buried under the rubble of their home, Salah family in Khan Younis city. Talking about the massacre in the Al-Maghazi refugee camp, according to the Palestinian sources, medical sources, 70 people were killed, while until now and after almost 12 hours after the strike, the Palestinian civil forces and rescuers are still working on evacuating the bodies of those who are still trapped under the rubble of their homes. At the same time here, Palestinians are actually starving. They are thirsty for some water. They are hungry for some food. Egypt is allowing very little aid to enter the Gaza Strip. Those who get aid, they will suffer the lack of medicine. Those who will get medicine will suffer the lack of food and water. I mean, it is a total chaos here, and unfortunately the UN is not 100% functioning and distributing aid on the people of Gaza. Noor Harasin, TeleSUR, Gaza.
In Palestine, the World Health Organization described the situation in the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza as absolute chaos following the constant attacks by Israel. Amid efforts to address the humanitarian and health crisis in Gaza, the UN Health Agency and its partners delivered supplies to the hospital and visited 3 other health facilities in the territory. Despite the Israeli siege in the Gaza Strip, Al-Shifa Hospital continues to provide assistance and is hosting more than 50,000 displaced people. The WHO said that sustained humanitarian access is essential to deliver food, water, fuel, medicines, and other critical supplies safely and continuously to more than 2 million people.
back in Al-Shifa, the largest hospital in Gaza, for the third time this week, where it's still a case of absolute misery. With people still on the floors, it's almost impossible to walk. Critical cases, doctors and nurses absolutely scrambling, people crying out that they need blood for their son and daughter who are dying. There's almost nothing that this team can do, this very small clinical team can do to help all of these people. It's absolute chaos still. And actually, this is even after the hospital staff told us that the fighting has quieted down for the last few days. It's nonstop, 24 hours a day, serious and critical injuries coming in, and a very small staff to help them.
The WHO health official warned that there is a risk of famine in Gaza.
There's the risk of a famine here in Gaza, actually, and even here in the hospital, everybody says that they only have rice. They have very often only one meal a day, and they're hungry. So, you know, we've brought medical supplies here, we've brought surgical supplies here. Everybody wants food, and we're currently in the kitchen trying to find a way that we can reactivate this kitchen.
The president of Iran, Said Ibrahim Raisi, criticized certain countries that support Israel's crimes and called on the world at Christmas to reject these actions. The Iranian leader said in his statement that some leaders who claim to follow the Christian path also support Israel's criminal actions against Gaza. He reminded these leaders that the Zionist aggression has violated the rights of the Palestinian nation and has not hesitated to attack Muslims, Christians, and Baptists in their mosques and churches in the besieged Strip. The Persian president accused the governments of certain Western countries as fundamental allies of the genocide against the Palestinian enclave. The government of National Salvation of Yemen positively valued the decision of Spain not to integrate the task force for the Red Sea led by the United States. The Deputy Foreign Minister Hussein El-Essi recognized Spain's courage in not allowing itself to be dragged along by Washington and London. Although it has not been officially communicated like Spain, it is speculated that France and Australia will also leave the group. Shipping companies warned that the chaos in the Red Sea shipping lanes could last for months. The world's second largest container firm, Danish AP Moller Maersk, showed 15 container routes affected between Asia and Europe, which will include more than 150 tankers. Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. The Russian government extended the ban on trucks from the European Union, the United Kingdom, Norway, and Ukraine entering the country. The Russian Cabinet of Ministers said in a statement that the restriction will remain in force until the European Union's decision not to allow trucks with Russian and Belarusian license plates to pass through the community countries is lifted. In this regard, the Cabinet clarified that an exception will be made for the transport of mail, including diplomatic mail and humanitarian aid. In addition, technical support vehicles for the transportation of equipment and vehicles to the venues of sports competitions were allowed to pass through. On Sunday, it was learned that Chad voted in favor of a new constitution to facilitate its transition to a civilian government. The National Commission for the Organization of the Constitutional Referendum announced the results of the consultation held on December 17th. In a ceremony held at the headquarters of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in N'Djamena, the capital of the country, they informed that 86% of the voters were in favor of a reform, against 14% who opted for the no. The Supreme Court is now tasked with validating the results, and the decision is expected to be known on December 28th. In Sudan, more than 20 million people are facing food shortages following violent clashes in the country that have led to a humanitarian crisis. Since mid-December, the armed conflict in Sudan has escalated, spreading to the central and southern regions of the country. The World Food Programme warned that if foreign food assistance to the country is not increased for the dry season, certain regions could suffer from famine. Several social organizations reiterate the urgent need for an immediate ceasefire in Sudan and unimpeded access to humanitarian aid in all regions of the country. Around 118 migrants were rescued in the Mediterranean Sea following operations by the non-profit Sea-Watch organization. Authorities reported that among the migrants were dozens of minors, including children under the age of 3. The migrants were rescued by the Sea-Watch 5 vessel. The ship remained in the south of the island of Lampedusa to assist, along with 2 Italian Coast Guard patrols, in the search and rescue of a fishing vessel with at least 150 people aboard. The Canadian mining company First Quantum, after assuring that it would comply with the ruling of Panama's highest court, warns that it will defend its investment in the country. Although they claim that they will do so by all legal means, Panamanian workers and farmers denounced the other actions that the company is willing to take. The Canadian company indicated that it will shield its investment of $10 billion and the rights in the Panama copper mine. Their representatives in the Latin American country reported that they have not been able to communicate with the representatives of the national executive. However, the Farmers Front Against Mining denounces the complicity of the government with the businessmen. Haiti is about to end the most violent year in its history with almost 4,000 murders and thousands of wounded, kidnapped and displaced people. Gun violence also increased kidnappings and armed assaults, with more than 2,900 kidnapped. Authorities registered also over 1,400 people injured in acts of gang violence. This shocking scenario has caused the displacement of some 200,000 residents, and according to the United Nations, 5.2 million Haitians require humanitarian assistance. The government of Ariel Henry, without an answer to the crisis, looks to an international force for solutions to a multifactorial crisis. On Monday, the Global Initiative Against Organized Crime ranked Ecuador as the 11th nation with the highest crime rate and the 6th country with the highest rate of extortion. Ecuador undergoes an insecurity and violence crisis unprecedented in its history, where the number of kidnappings and other crimes are becoming more and more frequent. Therefore, the country is in this category with a score of 8, tying with several nations such as Guatemala, Mali, and Nigeria, as indicated in the Global Index of Organized Crime in 2023. The agency also issued a report describing that many people fleeing the country cite extortionists as one of the main reasons for the decision to leave. Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. government's announcements on immigration control raised concerns among thousands of asylum seekers in Mexican territory who have decided to set out for the United States. It is estimated that more than 10,000 people from at least 24 countries traveled in the caravan that left Tapachula, southern Mexico, on Sunday, December 24th. The first stop was in Álvaro Obregón, another city in the state of Chiapas. According to the Mesoamerican Migratory Services, entire families are traveling in the caravan. Since last week, the heads of state and government of North America announced plans to reduce migration, which raised concerns among those who were expecting regulatory processes in Mexico. We now have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. The President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, sent a Christmas message on Sunday wishing happiness to all Mexicans. Through a video on his social media account and accompanied by his wife, Beatriz Gutierrez, the President emphasized that Christmas Eve is not a night for confrontation, much less for war, but for peace and love in family. López Obrador expressed his wishes of happiness for all citizens with special emphasis on the children who love this season so much and the grandparents of all Mexican families.
Tonight is not for confrontation, not for quarrels, much less for war. It is for peace, this Christmas Eve, for love, and tomorrow's Christmas.
The presidents of Latin America and the Caribbean took advantage of Christmas Eve to express their commitments and wishes for their peoples and region. Peace has been the most recurring word in these Christmas messages of the heads of Latin American states. Their commitments and promises with democracy, development and prosperity of their nation, as well as the commitment to improve in the coming 2024, accompany the wish of good holidays. Brazilian President Lula Silva recalled how an attempted coup d'etat consolidated a national peace pact in his country.
Mis amigas, mis amigos.
My friends, the hatred of some against democracy left deep scars and divided the country. These united families and put democracy at risk. They broke shop windows, invaded and destroyed public spaces, destroyed works of art and historical pieces. Fortunately, the coup attempt caused the opposite effect. It united all institutions, mobilized political parties beyond ideologies, provoked the immediate reactions of society, and at the end of the sad January 8th, democracy emerged, victorious and strengthened.
President Nicolas Maduro and the first combatant, Celia Flores, also expressed their good wishes with a Christmas message to the Venezuelan people.
Venezuelan men and women are persistent, like the fields of the Guaruras and the beating of the drum that defeat Oblivion.
Second, we are brave, like the victorious Florentine, who with his truth and his verse neither fears nor offends.
We are generous like that sun that rises in the Essequibo to illuminate an entire continent.
Besides, we are very united, as only a family can be, that overcoming difficulties learn to trust in its own strength.
We are also optimistic like our athletes, who play everything with the certainty of glory.
And we are joyful, like the gaita that stops being Zuliana to become a national celebration.
We are diverse like the traditional hallaca, which in each region change its ingredients, but it is still called the same, hallaca.
And loyal, above all loyal, to our heritage, to our destiny, like the flagship of freedom, of justice, in which we are overcoming storms and forging the future. And if you join those 8 words, Celita, we can tell the child God, how is Venezuela?
Welcome to Venezuela, where the most loving people in the world live. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year 2024.
All women and men, long life our beloved homeland.
Long life.
For his part, the president of Bolivia, Luis Arce, took advantage of his Christmas Eve message to wish Bolivians happy holidays in family unity.
I wish you a good night, united, and prosperity reigns in your homes this new year. May it also be a time of reflection, of recovery of energies, so that in 2024 we face the challenges that arise and once again come out successful, in peace, with respect, solidarity, and complementarity, and commitment to the collective welfare. Let us walk and work together towards a Bolivia with better and greater opportunities for all, always prioritizing the most vulnerable sectors. Be assured that your national government will continue to work of it were the first day that we assume the mandate of the people, with the same strength, conviction, and commitment to serve our country in search of better days. A big huge from me and my family to all of you. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Gustavo Petro, in the company of his children and wife, acknowledged that it has been a complex year and renewed his hope for the end of violence in Colombia.
This year must help us to overcome conflicts, domestic violence, violence in the regions of Colombia, so that we can lay serious foundations and overcome poverty. Wars have increased in the world. There, in the same place of the major bombs are falling. We have to fight for peace, peace for the world, peace in Colombia, peace in our hearts, peace in our homes, peace so that children can be born, grow up, and live happily.
Meanwhile, in Argentina, social movements organized a Christmas Eve dinner for homeless and low-income people in Congress Square in Buenos Aires under the slogan, "No Family Without Christmas." This is an initiative that has been carried out every December 24th since 2016, so that thousands of families living in complicated situations can share a different Christmas. This year, a total of more than 4,000 people participated. The celebration included a sector for children with inflatable ball games and a Christmas gift. There was also a hairdressing salon, showers and toilets, and live music. Social leader and former presidential candidate Juan Gabrois said that there is nothing more important than loving everyone, especially the poorest. In a handwritten letter, Pope Francis greeted the initiative and thanked Sergio Sanchez, president of the Federation of Cartoneros and organizer of the event, on behalf of all the collaborators. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.